Om Jnanatimanasya Jnanjala Shlakaya Sakshvanvilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Chit Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svamabhakadamam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shio Shiyuda Patakam Nam Shiom Vaishnavam Shah Shri Upam Jagajatam Sakana Ragnatam Tam Tam Sajivan Satvaitam Savaduktam Parijan Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakana Lita Shiv Shakam Vitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jatpate Gopesha Gopakanta Radhakanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishvanu Sitadevi Pranamama Haripriya Vankha Kaltra Visha Kripa Sindhu Patanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskachari Desatarani. Hare Krishna.
Recording in progress.
So after hearing from all the stories from the queens of Krishna, we will now hear from the sages. Chapter 84 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the sages teaching at Kurukshetra. So in Kurukshetra, so many personalities came at the occasion of the solar eclipse. But actually, why did everyone come? Everyone came to see Krishna. Now we move to chapter 84 and we will hear the sages' teachings at Kurukshetra. But after the meeting with the gopis and their meeting with them after so long, the queens expressed their moods towards Krishna, and we will find that it won't be as intense because the Bhagavatam moves. It goes from lila to philosophy that vary from different identities as well, so varying from different intensities as well. Intensities of love, intensities of transcendental emotion being expressed. But here in the first verse, Sukadeva Goswami says, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Shri Sukha Uvacha Shudva Pita Subala Putra Jachnaseni Bhavatyata Kshipit Ksitipapatya Uta Svagopya Krishne Kilatmanya Ropayana Nubandam Sarva Vivismyuh Alamasru Kalakulakshai. Text translation. Sukadeva Goswami said, Pita, Gandhari, Draupadi, Subhadra, the wives of other kings, and the Lord's cowherd girl friends were all amazed to hear of the queen's deep love for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and soul of all beings, and their eyes filled with tears. So what do we learn from that? The cowherd girls, the Braja Gopikas, were amazed to hear the queen's expression of the depth of their heartfelt love for Krishna. Is that not amazing? Instead of being envious or inimical, so this is the spiritual world. Although there was a kind of transcendental competition between the queens and the gopis although on another level, as the queens are expansions of the gopis. There was no enmity, rather they were so thrilled and amazed that they were amazed of the attachment, the anubandham, and about the pranaya, the love that the other person had for Krishna. And they were filled with appreciation that they could see that the center was Krishna and that the queens were giving so much pleasure to Krishna. But not only the gopis were there, also Gandhari, Prita, which is Kunti, Draupadi, Subhadra. So we will read the commentary here of Srila Vishwanath Bhakti Thakur, which is on the screen. Can someone read that commentary, please?
In the 84th chapter, there is mutual praise between Krishna and the sages. Questions by Vasudeva, performance of Yajna by Vasudeva, and Nanda's departure from Vraja. Though Gandhari, Subala Putri, Draupadi, Yagnaseni, and Subhadra, Madhai, all heard the discussions of the queens, those such as Gadadhari did not hear directly, because it was not fitting for them to be involved in the intimate discussion with questions and answers between Draupadi and the queens in such independent way. Because Draupadi and Subhadra were intimate friends of the same age, with the queens it was proper that they heard directly. The cowherd women living in another place, because of their different caste, heard even more indirectly. The word uta indicates this separation of distance. By the word swa, since they identified themselves as the internal energy of Krishna, they would have carried on their intimate pastimes, such as embracing without others seeing every night at that place. But in Kurukshetra, a holy place, one should understand that they carried out the practice of brahmacharya and did not engage in such activities. The gopis were also astonished and shed tears on hearing the queen's pastimes, because they were pastimes concerning Krishna, and they saw there a very slight similarity to their own emotions. It should be understood that the gopis did not have the overwhelming attraction to the queen's pastimes.
Not the same kind of attraction that we'll read the next verses, 2 to 5. As the women thus talked among themselves, and the men among themselves, a number of great sages arrived there, all of them eager to see Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram. They included Dvaipayana, Narada, Shravana, Devala and Ashita, Vishwamitra, Satananda, Bharadvaj and Gautama, Lord Parasuram and his disciples Vashista, Kalava, Brihu, Pulastya and Kashyapa, Atri, Markandeya and Brihaspati, Dvita, Trita, Ekata and the four Kumaras and Angira, Agastya, Jagyavalka and Vamadev. So they are all worshipable, wonderful personalities. They have come there on the occasion of the solar eclipse, but as the verse directly says, they were eager to see Krishna. And this is the great wealth of any person, to see, serve, or to be in the presence of Krishna. This is quite spontaneous on the part of the sages. So now the topmost personalities in society are described here with their relationship with Krishna and Balaram. The head of society are the Brahminical sages, because they are meant to guide society. What is the highest on the Varnashram level? The sages are situated so high on the Varnashram level. But the Dwarkavasis and the Vrindavan Vasis, they are practically speaking on the topmost level. The depth of their love for Krishna is greater and intimate. Intimacy comes by love. When there is the deepest trust, then one is closer to the other person. The Brajvasis were unequal because they taught nothing, they spoke nothing about Krishna. But their consciousness, they were fully Krishna conscious, completely continuously, and only absorbed in thoughts of pleasing Krishna. Their situation is quite unique. Therefore, the 10th canto, which we are coming to the end of, the other cantos were meant to bring us to the point of appreciating the pure sublime consciousness of the Vrajavasis. Text 6. As soon as they saw the sages approaching, the kings and other gentlemen who had been seated immediately stood up, including the Pandava brothers and Krishna and Balaram. They all then bowed down to the sages who are honored throughout the universe. So everyone stood up out of respect for the sages, regardless of their spiritual depths. Why do they do that? It is natural. There is no envy, there is no material competition. They appreciate the sages because they are sages. They are not thinking, why should I stand up for them? They are just following the normal everyday structures of Varnashram. Krishna and Balaram are teaching us here. To Srila Prabhupada, someone asked Srila Prabhupada, what do you want the children to learn? Interesting question. Srila Prabhupada replies, when they see a sannyasi, they should bow down. That is what education means, bowing down before a sage. The Varnashram society facilitates the quality that is required. So when someone bows down to another, they acknowledge their superior position. Nowadays, in contemporary so-called civilization, no one needs to acknowledge someone in a superior position than me. No one is superior to me. Basically, the path of materialistic life, false ego, always thinking oneself the topmost deserving person. Why? Because I'm me, the center of existence. I deserve to have everything. I deserve to understand everything, and I want everyone to understand who I am, how wonderful I am, and how powerful I am. These are, of course, the actions of the illusory energy. This, despite that we are tiny and insignificant, that is what we are. First they stood up out of respect, and then they bow down out of respect. Text 7. Lord Krishna, Lord Balaram, and the other kings and leaders properly worshipped the sages by offering them words of greetings, sitting places, water for washing their feet, drinking water, flower garlands, incense and sandalwood paste. So to be a king you need to have a huge false ego. You need to have a particular mood as a king. Because you have to protect the citizens, and you should be glad to accept any challenge. That means that you have to think yourself the topmost. It is essential for leaders and kings within the Varnashram system that they see sages, that they bow down and worship them. Otherwise, they will be out of control. The sages keep the society in a spiritual direction. The kings deal so much with power and wealth in the mode of passion, so they will tend to be influenced by that and therefore the check and balance in society is given by the kings being subservient to the sages. And they fear the sages, because kings by definition are warriors. They have to be so brave to fear no one. Otherwise, how can they rise to the challenge of fighting? But they fear sages, because because the sages have the power that they cannot stop. And that is the power of the curse, the power of renunciation. Okay, you don't take my advice, I'm leaving. I even take the side of your enemy. They stood up and they bowed down and they worship. And it is wonderful that they were not at their home in their palaces. They were traveling. But they offered everything they had. Text 8. After the sages were comfortably seated, the Supreme Lord Krishna, whose transcendental body protects religious principles, addressed them in the midst of that great assembly. Everyone listened silently with rapt attention. So why did everyone listen silently and carefully? Their consciousness was focused. So why? Who is going to be speaking? Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the topmost person in existence. Therefore they were interested what he is going to say. He's all-knowing, all-powerful, all-wealthy, all-renounced, all-beautiful and all-famous, and he's going to speak. Whatever he says is going to be exceptional. He's speaking to the sages here, to the all-powerful sages. He's going to be in his all-powerful mood. Or is he going to be in his Varnashram mood? Good question. It seems going the way that he will be in his Varnashram mood. When he's in the Varnashram mood, then what is the purpose of his speaking? He speaks for the benefit of society, for everyone who is there, the kings, everyone. We are also listening, so it is also for our benefit. Lord Krishna speaks to the sages in 4 verses now, and the sages are going to speak. Look at the perspectives here. What Krishna wants us to see and learn, and what the sages are actually thinking after being spoken to by Krishna on the Varnashram level. How do we know that they are aware that Krishna is the Supreme Lord? Good question. They have come from all over the land, not specifically to take bath during the solar eclipse, but to see Krishna and Balaram. They wanted to see them because they were sages. They knew who these persons were. Not that everyone from anywhere come to see them, but the sages came because that is the meaning of being a sage. It is very rare to have the association of Krishna and Balaram. Here the 4 verses Krishna speaks. Text 9. The Supreme Lord said, "Now our lives are indeed successful, for we have obtained life's ultimate goal, the audience of great yoga masters, which even demigods only rarely obtain." Yeah. So, they were seeing Krishna and Balaram as Yogeshwar. To see with our eyes means seeing what is there. Seeing with our eyes is seeing whatever one else sees, and this is what we think. But if there is a car accident with 20 witnesses, and you ask each of the 20 witnesses what happened, and you most probably get 20 different answers. We see not only with our eyes, but with our very subjective mentalities. This is something to keep in mind in our dealings with each other, that we have our perception of reality, but we don't know reality as it is. Not only we should tell everyone what we think, but we should remember that this is only what we think. And we see with our minds. We also hear with our minds. We can close our eyes, but we can't physically close our eyes and ears. We don't hear what other people say sometimes. So this is what the sages are saying. They see Krishna as Yogeshvar, Vasudev, see Krishna in one way, and the Yadus are seeing Krishna in another way. And the residents of Vrindavan are seeing Krishna in a complete different way. So it appears superficially that the residents of Vrindavan are seeing Krishna in the least perfect way, because how do they see him? As Lala, or a boy. He's our boy. That he's from our village. We grew up with him, and no one else knows him. He's our boy. But just like we have any friends, as anyone still friends they grew up with, think about it. Mostly we have grown distance from those with whom we have grew up with. Does someone has friends who they know for 30 to 40 years? We know them in a different way. It is very interesting to have very old friends, because you know each other and are still friends after 40 years. It passed the test of time. The residents of Vrindavan, they say that we really know what Krishna likes, how he wants to dress, how he likes to eat, how he likes to play, what he really likes to do. He's our boy, the Vrindavan Vasis thinks. This is the difference between the vision of the sages and the residents of Vrindavan. It is not the eyes that see, but it is a different transcendental. It is a difference in transcendental mentality. Of course, we know that the residents of Vrindavan have a supreme transcendental mentality, because their love for Krishna is complete. Krishna reciprocates with that. This is Ahyaya Jnana. Krishna reveals himself. We see him according to our consciousness. If we take that point seriously, then we understand why we see what we see. Because this is Krishna's reciprocation with us. We see the world through the filter of our mind. We can understand the way our minds are by the way we think. Through that way, Krishna tells us every day, every minute of every day, what we have to do to improve, what we have to increase, and what we have to decrease, watching our own consciousness. The sages, with their exalted consciousness, filled with so much reference toward the Supreme Lord, and we will hear exactly what their consciousness is here. Because whatever our consciousness is how we think. And what we think comes out of our mouth. Sometimes, and at least it comes out of our mouth sometimes, and sometimes in our words. They will tell us how they viewed Krishna in a few moments. Now Krishna is viewing them. Then, how is it that people who are very austere and who recognize God only in his deity form in the temple can now see, touch you, inquire from you, bow down to you, worship your feet, and serve you in other ways? So he is glorifying saintly association. And what is implicit in what Krishna is saying is that to gain saintly association, it's a great fortune. This fortune doesn't come to everyone. It usually comes to those who are austere. It usually doesn't come to those who only see God in the deity in the temple. What does that mean? Does that mean that we criticize those who see the deity in the temple? No, but if they only see Krishna, see the deity. That is what Kapila explains in the third canto. In the third canto, Kapila Dev is explaining the purpose of deity worship. He's explaining the different kinds of Bhagavatas, Kapila Muni. If one sees the Lord only in the deity and does not see that the Lord is in everyone's heart, every single living entity's heart, then that is a Prakita Bhakta. It is a lower class. So deity worship means one sees the pujaris, sees the deity on the altar, and he transfers the same deity into his heart and feels the same deity in his heart and sees the same deity in everyone's heart. So Krishna is putting himself and all the kings speaking here on the Varnashram level. People who are materialistic, who are engaged in opulence and austerity, they tend not to have the fortune to see sages. And this for another reason. Sages don't want to see them. Why? Because please give me this, solve this problem, get rid of my enemy, and so on. That's what they're asking the sages. So because this kind of association, kingly association for a sage is contaminating association. We are here in the material world because we have a tendency to enjoy and to lord over material existence. Money is power. No power without money. That love makes the world go round, but money greases the wheels. There is the golden rule. One who has gold makes the rules. He who has gold rules. Asat Sangat Yah, we have heard. Nectar of instruction. Do not associate with worldly people. These are Gaudiya Vaishnava teachings. For a man to associate with women brings out more anything else than the enjoying spirit. Okay, also to associate with men attached to women, and vice versa also amongst the ladies. It brings out the spirit of enjoyment, that I am not a servant. I want to exploit the material world for my pleasure. Bhagavad Gita. Posa prakatisturi bhukte prakati jan gunam. Everyone in the material world is in a weak position. This because the material energy is such a strong position. Because it is empowered by Krishna. Deva yesa guna maya mama maya drachya mama vaya papachate mayam etam tarantite. Therefore, it is best to keep oneself aloof. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he used to say, really the temples of the Gaudiya Math are fortresses, so that the devotees wouldn't have to have any bad association. And that was the mood of that Prabhupada had. Once the temples became empty, because the devotees left, then the devotees could not continue their practice in the same way. And we see that today also, that many new devotees, they have never lived in a temple. So to be in the material world is such a difficult circumstance. Therefore, Krishna says that it is a grace that we have obtained your mercy. That we have obtained your association. It's mercy. Sadhusanga, sadhusanga, sarva shastrakai, lava matra sadhusanga, sarva siddhihoi. The verdict of all revealed scriptures is that even a moment's association with a pure devotee, one can attain all success. Text 11. This is, mere bodies of water are not real sacred places of pilgrimage, nor are mere images of earth, stone, the true worshipable deities. These purify only after a long time, but saintly sages purify one immediately upon being seen. So this is this concept of these sages. Tirtha Bhutani Tirthani. Actually, they are walking place of pilgrimage because of having the Lord in their heart. A place is holy when Krishna is there. This gives a hint. What does it mean to be a sage? It means to be fixed on a transcendental platform. What does it mean, transcendental platform? It means one's heart, one's consciousness, mind is filled with thoughts of Krishna. A materialist's mind is filled with anything other than thoughts of Krishna, specifically in an enjoying spirit. We see with our consciousness, with our minds, that when our consciousness is covered, filled with false ego, that's Maya. That is the first gift of Maya. That is false ego. This is the first gift of the conditioned soul. When you go to the prison, the first thing they do is giving you a new set of clothes. Beautiful prison uniform. The first element of the prison uniform in the material world is the false ego. That number is your identity. Our consciousness becomes filled with false ego, and a sage means that one's consciousness is filled with Krishna. It is filled with a serving spirit of Krishna. And through that consciousness and spirit, he sees the world, a serving spirit. Why would he have a serving spirit? Shivera Svarupa Hoy Krishnera Nitya Das. A sage means that this consciousness of being a servant of Krishna has penetrated to the depths. A sage has just one identity. I'm Krishna's servant. The respect is given to the sages is mentioned in various parts of the Bhagavatam. That an example is the 48th chapter of the 10th canto when Krishna visits the house of Akrura. So many other places. What Krishna says in these verses, this is 10, 48, 30 and 31, that he says here to Akrura that because he has no false ego, he should go to Hastinapur to find out what's going on there. So Lord Krishna also speaks to Markandeya Rishi, Canto 12, chapter 10, verses 19 to 25. There seeing a sage, a mortal achieves mortality, achieves immortality. One can say that Kamsa saw the Lord and he did not gain immortality. This seeing is a particular type of seeing. It's not just with the eyes. From the perspective of Shastra, it is the perspective that is because we have all our subjective way of seeing. But when we have Shastra, Shastra is the check. We want to learn how to see the vision or consciousness correcting through seeing through the correcting lens of Shastra. So Lord Narayan takes this point even further when Durvasa Muni approaches him. the Vasa Muni was fleeing the chakra. He says, Asvatantra, I'm completely dependent. I'm completely dependent upon my devotees. Asvatantra Ivadvija. We can say that the sages have the power of purifying. That is what the verse we are referring to, what the verses we are referring to are saying, even more than holy places and holy rivers, etc. Even more, they have the power to control Krishna. This is quite astounding. Lord Narayan speaking, Lord Shiva speaking, Lord Krishna is speaking to Akrura. So this is in the heart of the Vedic culture. This is actually the essence of Vedic culture, and Krishna himself speaks it. Can someone read this, the purport of verse 11, which is on the screen?
Because the personality of Godhead is absolute, the Supreme Spirit, any representation of Him, whether manifested in stone, paint, sound, or any other authorized medium, is not different from His original form in the topmost spiritual planet, Goloka Vrindavana. But ordinary demigods are not absolute, being infinitesimal spirit souls, and thus representations of the demigods are not identical with them. Worship of demigods or ritual bathing in a sanctified place gives only limited benefit to those who lack transcendental faith in the Supreme Lord. On the other hand, great Vaishnava saints like Vyasadeva, Narada, and the four Kumaras are always absorbed in Krishna consciousness, and thus they are veritable moving tirthas, places of pilgrimage. Even a moment's association with them, especially by hearing their glorification of the Lord, one can deliver one from all material entanglement. As King Yudhishthira said to Vidura, Bhavat Vida Bhagavatas Tirthabhuta Swayam Vibho Tirti Kurvanti Tirtani Swantastena Gadhabhuta. My Lord, devotees like your good self are verily the holy places personified. Maharaj, you have to move the screen. Because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart, you turn all places into places of pilgrimage.
Thank you.
Srimad Bhagavatam 1.13.10.
Good. Text 12. Neither the demigods controlling fire, the sun, the moon, and the stars, nor those in charge of earth, water, ether, air, speech, and mind actually remove the sins of their worshippers, who continue to see in terms of dualities. But wise sages destroy one's sins when respectfully served for even a few moments. Can someone else read the purport, please?
And immature. Go ahead, Prabhu.
An immature devotee of the Supreme Lord may accept only the deity of the Lord as divine and see everything else as material, even the Lord's confidential servants. Nonetheless, because he recognizes Lord Vishnu's supreme position, such a devotee is better situated than materialistic worshippers of the demigods, and thus he deserves a degree of respect. Association with advanced sages, either directly or by hearing their instructions, is recommended in this verse for one who wishes to advance beyond the lowest stages of devotional life. A neophyte devotee may be free from the more obvious sins of violence against innocent creatures and against his own body and mind. But until he becomes very advanced on the devotional path, he must always contend with the subtler contaminations of false pride, disrespect toward respectable Vaishnavas, and lack of compassion for suffering creatures. The best remedy for these symptoms of immaturity is to hear from and honor pure Vaishnavas and to assist them in working to deliver the fallen conditioned souls.
It's the best remedy, yes. Can someone read the purport of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on the screen.
Can I read, Maharaj?
Yes, please.
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, 1084-12. Concerning the worship of the voice and mind, the Shruti says, those who worship the voice as Brahman and those who worship the mind as Brahman. Those who see difference, Vedakrit, between himself and others who are actually similar because of urges like hunger and thirst and gain of respect and other desires cannot destroy their sins, agaham, such as envy, disrespect, contempt arising from seeing difference by such worship. But they can destroy those sins by serving the great devotees.
Thank you. So the voice and the mind are not independent of the Lord. So there seems to be a way to worship the voice and mind as non-different from the Lord. This is described in 11th canto, how to worship the Lord through the different elements and attain mystic siddhis. This is the process of gaining them. Text 13. This is the last verse spoken by Krishna. One who identifies himself as the inert body composed of mucus, bile and air, who assumes his wife and family are permanently his own, who thinks an earthen image or the land of his birth is worshipable, or who sees a place of pilgrimage as merely the water there, but who never identifies himself with, feels kinship with, and worships or even visits those who are wise in spiritual truth, such a person is not better than a cow or an ass. That's the famous verse. Prabhupada quoted so many times. Yasyatma buddhi kunapeti tadakes vadikala tradische baumaichati. Yatirta buddhi salena karichit says of Jesus Aiva Hukara. So Krishna has finished now speaking these 4 wonderful verses. What is the essence of what Krishna has said in these 4 verses? Worship the sadhus. This is the essence of Vedic culture. The sadhus carry the Lord in the heart. They carry assimilated Shastra because they are actually on that platform. So how do the sages react when the Supreme Personality of Godhead greets them? Unfathomable words means unlimitedly deep words, so much that they are not understandable. He is speaking to the sages, but no one can really understand the depths of the Lord's words. There are about 80 commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam because it is a book that is so deep. Such a limited amount of commentaries can be written about it, and still one does not get the end of it. There are different viewpoints and ideas on Bhagavad Gita, so many, because his words are unlimitedly wise, they are unlimitedly deep. Why were they bewildered? Because they knew he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he came to see them, and look how he's speaking, and saying that the real benefit of life is seeing them, but the real benefit of life is obtained by seeing him. But now, text 15. First text 14. Viradev Goswami said, hearing such unfathomable words from the unlimited wise Lord Krishna, the learned Brahmins remained silent, their minds bewildered. We read that. And now 15. For some time the sages pondered the Supreme Lord's behavior, which resembled that of a subordinate living being. They concluded that he was acting in this way to instruct the people in general. Thus they smiled and spoke to him, the spiritual master of the universe. That Can someone read the small purport?
Sridhara Swami explains the word Isitavyata as referring to one's not being a controller, or in other words, to being under the law of karma, obliged to work and experience the result of one's work. While addressing the sages, Lord Krishna accepted the role of a subordinate living being to emphasize the importance of hearing and serving saintly Vaishnavas. The personality embodied is also the supreme teacher of spiritual surrender. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Now the sages start to reply, and they will speak 11 verses. 16. The great sages said, "Your power of illusion has totally bewildered us, the most exalted knowers of the truth and leaders among the universal creators, and how amazing is the behavior of the Supreme Lord. He covers himself with his human-like activities and pretends to be the subject to superior control." So he covers himself. They are amazed about Krishna's activities. Krishna is glorifying the sages and the sages are glorifying Krishna. 17. Indeed, the human-like pastimes of the Almighty are simply a pretense. Effortlessly, he alone sends forth from himself this variegated creation, maintains it and then swallows it up again, all without becoming entangled. Just as the element earth takes on many names and forms in its various transformations, Lord Krishna is unlimited, and he acts as a king, or as a son for Mother Yasoda, or as a lover for the gopis. All objects in this world are transformations of earth, that also are bodies made of earth, that its food is transformed to earth and built this body and so on. Everything is made from earth. Can someone read the purport which is on the screen, please?
The one Supreme expands himself as many without diminishing his completeness. He does this effortlessly, without depending on anyone or anything else. This mystic process of the Lord's self-expansion is incomprehensible to all but himself. But the example of substance earth and its manifold products bears enough resemblance to provide some idea. The same example is also present in an often cited passage of the Chandogya Upanishad 6.1. Vasaram bharnam vikaro namidhiyam mritiketi eva satyam. Earth's transformations are merely verbal creations of the process of naming. The substance earth itself is alone real. Sri Sridhar Swami suggests that this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam answers a possible objection on the part of Lord Krishna. How can I create, maintain and destroy the universe if I am Vasudev's son? Answer is given by the words, Aho vibhumnas charitam vidambanam. You are the perfectly complete whole, and your birth and pastimes are only an imitation of ordinary person's activities in the material world. We simply pretend to be under higher control.
Yes, they know who Krishna is. Text 18. Nonetheless, at suitable times you assume the pure mode of goodness to protect your devotees and punish the wicked. Thus you, the soul of the Varnashram social order, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, maintain the internal path of the Vedas by enjoying your pleasure pastimes. So what does it mean that he is the soul of the Varnashram order? The soul gives life. This is also in the third canto, the universal form But the universal form will not perform its activities until Lord Vishnu enters. So Lord Vishnu is the soul of the universe. Kshirodakasaya Vishnu gives life to the universe. That the sages are followers of the Vedic system. Further in this canto, the Vedas personified will speak in chapter 87, is the biggest chapter of this 10th canto, that text 19. The Vedas are your spotless heart, and through them one can perceive, by means of austerity, study, and self-control, the manifest, the unmanifest, and the pure existence, transcendental to both. Text 20. Therefore, Supreme Brahman, you honor the members of the Brahminical community, for they are perfect agents by which one can realize you through the evidence of the Vedas. For that very reason, you are the foremost worshipper of the Brahmins. So we don't need only to read books, we also need the teachers of the books. Through the Brahmins, we understand the true purpose of the Vedas. That shows what the Brahmins are supposed to do. They are supposed to study Shastra and carry it with them and give that essence of Shastra. Through them, people can understand the purpose of Shastra. To make that point, Krishna gives so much respect to the Brahmins. Krishna respected the Brahmins in so many places. We have Sudam Vipra when he was visiting Dwarka, the pastime of King Riga, that Krishna instructing his sons, don't offend the Brahmins. So Krishna said that our life is perfected by seeing you. And now the Brahmins are basically going to see the same thing. In text 21. Today our birth, education, austerity and vision have all become perfect because we have been able to associate with you, the goal of saintly persons. Indeed, you yourself are the ultimate, supreme blessing. Let us offer obeisance unto that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, the infinitely intelligent Super Soul, who has disguised his greatness through his mystic yoga Maya. So he's covering himself as acting as a king, but he's always acting in the most extraordinary way. Text 23. Neither the kings nor even the Vrishnis who enjoy your intimate association know you as the soul of all existence, the force of time and the supreme controller. For them you are covered by the curtain of Maya. Again, what is their qualification for being sages? They are being the via medium for the Shastric conclusions. Here they are speaking the Shastric conclusions. We are reminded here that whatever Krishna does is extraordinary. He has nothing to do with the way of ordinary jivas in this material world, how they relate to each other. We can understand how exceptional it is to have such an intimate relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is extraordinary to attain the intimacy of such a relationship. Abhideya Tattva teaches us to move in the direction of such an intimate relationship. Intimacy means more love, more trust. The relationship of the Brajavasis with Krishna is the most loving and trusting relationship. It is the topmost position of Theism. 24 and 25. A sleeping person imagines an alternative reality for himself, and seeing himself as having various names and forms forgets his waking identity, which is distinct from the dream. Similarly, the senses of one whose consciousness is bewildered by the illusion perceive only the names and forms of the material objects. Thus such a person loses his memory and cannot know you. 26, 27. Today we have directly seen your feet, the source of the holy Ganges, which washes away volumes of sins. Perfected yogis cannot best meditate upon your feet within their hearts, but only those who render your wholehearted devotional service and in that way vanquish the souls covering the material mind attain as their final destination. Therefore kindly show mercy to us, your devotees. Then the sages took leave, and they prepared to go home. Having thus spoken of asking the sages, then took leave of Lord Dasara, Dhritarashtra, and Yudhishthir, and prepared to depart for their ashrams. Seeing that they were about to leave, the renowned Vasudeva approached the sages. After bowing down to them and touching their feet, he spoke to them with carefully chosen words. 29. Shivasdev said, "Obeisance to you, the residents of all the demigods. Please hear me, O sages. Kindly tell us how the reactions of one's work can be counteracted by further work." So Vasudeva is thinking that he's an ordinary person. And he thinks, how can our bad karma be removed by karma yoga? That is his point here. So we are halfway the chapter and we will have a break here. It's now nearly 5 p.m. so we will meet again 5:15 in 15 minutes. Hare Krishna.
Recording stopped.